I really appreciate you joining. Iva Kenaz. I mean, you are an author, a symbologist. You have 16 books specializing in metaphysical and ancient knowledge. You have experiences with parallel worlds and other dimensions. And I got to tell you, I really love your book, Sacred Geometry and Magical Symbols. So appreciate you coming on today. And we should also clarify for people that where are you located right now, and where are you from?
I'm from and I live now in Czechia, near Prague, so in Europe, in Central Europe, in the heart of Europe. And I'm like an hour from Prague, so I'm very connected to Prague. Prague is a magical city, and it's an important portal also to the parallel subtle earth. So I love Prague, but I need to stay away from the city to be able to connect better to these parallel worlds. So I'm like an hour from Prague.
Okay, I love that. I want to get back to the nature thing because I think that's so important. People forget that, your connection to nature and severing that is ruining your, human spirituality. But I want to talk more about this Prague because, Prague is a very in the world of ESP and of psychics. Prague is very famous. This is an ancient culture, right? I don't know if you've ever read the book, Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain, but they do a whole entire expose in Prague and some of the famous psychics that came from Prague and how this was part of the culture there. So was this because in our culture here in the United States, we're not really open to thinking that something like this could be true. We're kind of closed-minded, but even just the fact that you have your European accent makes you credentialed to us. We're going to believe everything you say because you already seem mystic and like you've got this ancient wisdom that you can share with us from your old culture. So, did you grow up believing in these things, having an open mind, or was it something that you had to kind of teach yourself? Like, is this in your culture there, as what would you say, Czech, right? That's what you are. It's in the
Yes.
culture to accept that people have the ability to have, extrasensory perception and to be clairvoyant and to be open to other dimensions, right? Can you explain that part about your culture and the difference between ours?
Yes, I would say definitely. Czechs are very open-minded and we are very spiritual country, I would say, but open-minded spiritual in a sense that we really are very free-minded and open-minded. So we are open to new philosophies and new opinions and interests. So I think the fact that I'm from here and I've been blessed to be raised by parents that are artistic and open-minded and always like looking into different philosophies, and also my both my grandmothers very nature oriented. One of my grandmothers especially worked with healing and herbs, and so I think just the family and the culture that I grew up in is open to this, and it's not considered weird or strange to be interested in such things. So I think it was just this luck of, yes, and as you said, Prague and the Czech culture, we had so many mystics here. Uh, Prague is famous for its esoteric school. We had Blavatsky and Steiner and all these people like meeting here and philosophizing, and it was really like the dawn of this new age. Um, it all happened here in Prague and near Prague. So I think that all influences the mind and the psyche when you are born into that, and the
Right,
soul.
especially, yeah, you had Madame Blavatsky there. I mean, this is one of the most, to the audience that doesn't know, this is one of the most famous psychics to ever live. Some of her predictions are still coming true right now. So really an amazing, and then thousands and thousands of years old culture there that was kind of ruined for a certain period of time when they had when it was part of the Soviet Union, right? It kind of hindered the development, but now it's like gotten back to some of those ancient ways.
I
So,
think they never met. Sorry.
go
I
ahead. No,
think
go ahead. Say that again.
he tried to, they tried to hush everything here, but they never managed. I think we are strong.
You were able to keep that culture going there, and they weren't able to suppress kind of that old kind of because people would call it superstitious beliefs that they were trying to get rid of during those times. But I'm happy that you're carrying the torch there. So
Yeah.
so 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 let's get back to before we get into because I want to ask you about some of the symbols that we see over and over again, and you kind of you can get give us your take on why they're so important. But before we do that, because I think it's really important that you explain, the importance for people's spirituality and connection to nature, because you were just talking about that. So why is that so important for the human soul?
Well, for me, it's mainly about the consciousness being clear of all the disturbances and all the, I think our mind is just overwhelmed with information and with outer like world perceptions. So when we are in nature, it kind of clears out and it's much more peaceful, and we attune to the original creation, or to the, creation before the false matrix or the current matrix occurred. So it's like we go back to our origins. And for me, it's when I take walks in the countryside, my mind expands much better, and I receive synchronicities through symbols, magical symbols, and geometries and runes, the Norse runes. They really start to communicate to our subconscious when we know the symbols. It just comes through much more easily. And so for me, nature is just this like kind of a portal to open our consciousness to the divine messages that have always been there. It's just that in the cities, it's kind of blocked by all the external influences. And nature really communicates through trees and through the grass and fields. You start to see shapes everywhere when you are in that language, when you learn the language of the shapes.
And that's what we call the fractal nature of the universe, right? Because it's like you said, early humans, you were out, you were not indoors, you were looking up at the sky. In the sky, you look into the cosmos, and they all sort of repeat these patterns and these shapes. And then to nature, you look at the same patterns and shapes, and then lo and behold, structures. When we built things, the recipe was the same patterns that were built into the universe. So that is kind of the magic behind like sacred geometry. But in your great book, I mean, you talk about some of these patterns. So describe a little bit about, synchronicities, like what you just said there, because a lot of people listening won't know exactly what that means. Like sometimes we see the same number. Like a lot of times people see, oh my God, look at the time. It's 11:11. What does that mean? Or you start seeing this pattern go, and you don't really know what that means. So describe what that means to people, synchronicities, and how you notice them.
Yes. Well, to me, synchronicities are if something is repetitive in our external world or in the inner world. We could also see these things in dreams or meditations. So if some shape or number, as you said, occurs again and again, it means that we are supposed to look at it. We are supposed to look at the meaning. It's our spirit and our divine consciousness communicating with us. So if we learn the symbols and what they mean, then it's much easier to get the message. So when you see the number, as you said, 1111, or a shape such as a cross or a square or a triangle, then you make a connection to your conscious mind. Ah, this is the message. And then it's easier for you to read the message. Whereas if you don't know the symbols and the meanings behind the numbers and symbols and geometries, then you might be more lost. But once you learn it, and what's beautiful about this language is that to each person, this shape might mean something slightly different. Like there are certain things that are the same on the archetypal level, but then each person puts their own meaning to it, or they have their own interpretation. So, and that's again our creative mind, the right brain, where we follow our intuition and our own inner guidance to interpret the synchronicity of the symbol or the number.
Now, I heard this. I heard that even, mystics have been saying that even like since ancient times, you can use like some of these symbols and for and patterns for manifestation and for healing. Like one of them is the like flower of life that you hear somewhere. I don't know if you've seen the interviews with Terrence Howard. Do you know who Terrence Howard is?
No, I'm
So
sorry.
he's an American actor, and
Mhm.
he is very big on the flower of life and talking about the power behind it, right? So that's like one of the symbols that I want to get into. So I'm going to show you a couple of symbols that we have here, and they're from your great book. and then let me see if I can share my screen, and then you tell me, what these actually mean, when people see it, because these are some things that are like you see them, you've seen them your entire life, and you just don't even. Okay, here we go. Let me tell me if you could see this, and I'll share this for the people listening. We're gonna share this. There we go. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes, just not the symbol yet. Oh, now I see it. Okay, the mandorla or the Vesica Pisces, also known as the Vesica Pisces.
Right.
Yes.
Now, to me, this looks like the MasterCard logo. This is the Visa Master. This is the MasterCard logo. We've seen
Well,
this
they
pattern.
use it. I mean, companies use it because they like, I think it's a known fact that these symbols are really powerful. So it makes sense that companies and certain institutions use them.
Companies, secret societies. I mean, this goes back for thousands and thousands of years. These images have been put up here, even on the side of like, I don't know if you pay attention to like UAP, UFO lore, but they say that these are on the side of these actual crafts too. When anytime somebody has spotted these. So the one that we're showing right now, and again, this is if you're listening to this, so watch it, watch the on YouTube, and you're going to see here. What is this called again? The Mandalora.
I call it the mandorla because it looks like it's a almond, but some call it Vesica Pisces, but that's more like the horizontal version that looks like a fish. And Vesica Pisces is more connected, like the fish bladder. It's the fish symbol. When you look at it vertically like this, it resembles a gateway. I call it the gateway between worlds now for me, especially since I've been journeying past this dimension. But it's it's just most crucial geometric symbol because it comes from this coalescence of two circles meeting in their centers, and it can represent the gateway between worlds, but also some new beginnings. Something is being born. We are all born from this shape basically, like it's the womb of the universe, the womb of the mother earth. So it's something being born and some renewal. It can also, if you see the symbol, it could also mean that you're going through some inner changes or inner renewal or some rebirth symbolically, or that you are ready to pass between worlds because it's the passage between this and the other world, if we would call it in the if we call it in the Irish sense, the other world, or the parallel world that is more ethereal, more soft density, or a gateway into the afterlife. It could also be viewed as that. And it's also been a symbol for the third eye. The third eye often has the third eye we have. Uh,
Because in between it's shaped like an eye. When you put them together, the two circles on top of each other, it looks like an eye, yeah, like it's shaped like an eye.
yes,
So then, the circle itself is supposed to be pretty powerful, right? Like one circle on its own. Like what does the one circle on its own represent?
it's
C-
me, it's the wholeness, and it's like the source and the absolute together. It's the source and the wholeness of creation, and the circle is a perfect representation of that. But it's a unity, but at the same time it's a kind of a stillness. So if you apply a spiral to a circle, then you have more movement, you have the evolution and the movement of the ages, let's say, or of the time spaces. Whereas in the circle you have this stillness that just draws you within, it just draws you to your center. And I think in my experience it's perfect for meditation and for like going within and centering yourself. Circle is perfect for that.
And when you say you can use this for meditation, so I do transcendental meditation. I've been doing that for like 10 years now. We use a mantra. When you're going to use something like this for meditation, how would you use it?
Well, I would go about it intuitively and with my own will, like how I want to apply it. But I mean, we are all different, right? Some people like to imagine it, some need to visualize it, they need to have it on a piece of paper or as a drawing or as a painting. I just use visualization, and the circle for me, it's always important. Again, I speak from my own experience. to go into the center of the circle, because if you are on the outer rim, you can kind of get caught in the loop of the circle. Um, but if you go into the center, then you start to sense your own center and you get a sense of the wholeness of creation. So I think in circle symbol, it's important to pay attention to the within as well as the without, or the outer world of the circle.
Now, I've seen this here, and I didn't pull this one up, but I've seen the circle with the pyramid in it, with the triangle in it. Do you know what that represents? Because we see that a lot. You know, they say that represents, like, I don't know, is it called the philosopher's stone or something? But that's
Yes.
the with a triangle in the circle is supposed to be more powerful, right?
Well, it again depends. The triangle depends if it points upwards or downwards, because the
Yeah.
triangle pointing upwards is more about the um, if we take it as yin and yang, or the masculine and feminine energy, then the triangle pointing upward would be the masculine and the rational and the outward energy, whereas the one pointing down would be the feminine and the earth and the uh, energy going down. So for me, it's always most powerful when we combine the triangles, the upward and the downward, into the what in India they call Shaktuna. It's the six-pointed star that is the heart chakra. It represents the heart chakra. Um, to some religions and beliefs, it also represents the Star of David in the Jewish faith. So it's a very powerful symbol when you combine both the upward and the downward triangle. I, for some reason, I never resonate with it when it's only up or only down. I always find the harmony in the coalescence of both these aspects. So
In the symmetry. Now you did this earlier because because we see this, like, so I've seen this for many times where even in these mystic traditions like the Rosicrucianes or any of the ancient mystic cultures, they will even meditate and do the triangle and put their hands in that position. Just making the shape is supposed to give power and healing. Is that true? Even just doing the shapes with your hands is supposed to kind of manifest something.
yes, and
Because
yes,
yeah,
sorry.
because you look well, even in like even in different religions, you look at the when they're praying, they're always doing, and it's clearly they have the shape. Yeah, they're doing the clear shapes with their hands or fingers touching in that pyramid shape and keeping that.
I think though the problem with always pointing up with the upward triangle is that you give power to the logos, to the rational, and you forget about the intuition, the energy that goes inside, inward. I feel like people that are fascinated or use a lot the upward triangle are kind of calling to that logos, to the rational mind, and to certain, like, I don't know how to say it to be correct. Let's say our rational mind, the
Uh-huh.
logos. But if we apply the downward triangle, then it's more the Mother Earth and the grounding and the intuitive and kind of the unconscious or subconscious side. So I have a feeling that there's if you probably know what I mean, that there's a lot of the upward triangle. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah,
not common to see the downward triangle. And I
yeah,
think
yeah,
they're for that. They give power to that side.
yeah. It's like rigid and structured, kind of.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm.
So now I'm showing this other symbol here. This is another one that, okay, it's two things. Because first off, this is one of the most popular symbols that we see. I mean, throughout time. This is the symbol for infinity. Can you see the this here with the snake eating itself, eating its swallowing it?
Yes,
Okay. This is the infinity symbol, but it actually has a snake that completes it, and I think that that's what's making it look like the infinity symbol, but we see this everywhere. You know, forever this symbol has been around. What does this mean?
it's the infinity. When I wrote my book, Sacred Geometry and Magical
Uh-huh.
Symbols, I had slightly different view on this symbol.
Uh-huh.
Now I have a new perspective. I don't know if I
Okay,
can.
this is good. This is good. Now we need to get, this is why we're doing the update. Okay, good.
It's, it's a bit darker. Okay, it is eternity, of course, but eternal cycle can be good and bad. It can be both, right? But if we look at it from the point of view of being in this matrix and in what I now call the time loop, we're always looping through the same historical kind of cycles. Then the Ouroboros, of course, represents this looping in the cycles of this perpetual system. And to me now it also represents, because I've been studying Norse mythology for many years. It's my obsession, let's say, the Norse and Irish mythology. And in Norse mythology we have the event Ragnarok, the fall of the gods.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
um,
you said the Ragnarok, like the movie, like like right,
Now it's
like the
been
like
in movies and TV shows, yes.
yeah.
But in Norse mythology, it's an event that is a fall of the gods. But symbolically, we could view it as the fall of the divine self, our own divinity. And the god Loki has a son. Loki, by the way, means to lock. He locks something,
And
and
this is
he's described.
and in the movies, this is Thor's brother in the movies, the bad brother in the movies.
Yes, but originally in mythology, he was a guy that kind of locked the world, the Midgard, the Earth, in the new system. So, from modern perspective, we would say in the new matrix. And his son was this serpent called Jormungandr. And Jormung means something large, and Gandr means a serpent, wolf, or magic wand, in different like Norse languages. So he kind of symbolically encircled the earth in the new system. And now when I look at the serpent and Ouroboros, I see that very much, that we are like in this kind of cycle, caught in the loop, that it seems very kind of final and fatal, but we are actually meant to break away from it, from these endless circles, endless looping. So to me now, this symbol represents also this, like the encircling of planet Earth in this perpetual cycle of the current matrix.
Or people in general. It can represent that you're trapped in your own life here, can't get out of your the way of yourself. It can mean there's so many different meanings that it kind of invokes when you think of it that way, that it's an endless entrapment. Yeah, but again, this is another, real powerful one, and here's one that we see, and this is the Egyptian Ankh, and in
Mhm.
the Ankh, explain this. Is it more than just because I see people wear this on their necklace, and we see this one all the time, but people kind of just wear it as jewelry. But this is one of the most powerful symbols in Egyptian culture, right? And this is like you see Thoth hold this, the Egyptian god Thoth.
Yes, there's a
So,
big mystery surrounding this symbol. But as you notice, it connects the circle and the cross, because the top is a circle. Even though it looks like a human figure, in a way it looks like a head and a figure, but it combines the most powerful symbols, which is the cross and the circle. And if you combine these, you have kind of the spiritual element of the unity, of the divine unity, and the source of the circle, and the cross, which has always represented the material life, or the earth, or the four elements, the four directions. So it's like the earth meeting the divine. And it's been considered a very protective and shielding symbol, but it's also in Egyptian mythology, it was used to bound spirits, so, or release them. So it again has this kind of double meaning. And now again, I look at it a bit differently than years ago when I wrote this book. I'm always evolving or changing.
and for people watching, so these are, if you get Iva's book, these are some of the screenshots from her actual book. It's a phenomenal book. This is this a masculine or a feminine symbol?
Well, I would say this is a perfect combination of both, because the circle and again, what we view as masculine, feminine, because the circle has been viewed as the feminine, but it's like the source and the absolute, the unity of consciousness, while the cross has also been viewed as earth, so also a feminine, but also a masculine, because you have this kind of grounding element to it. So I think it could be represented as both. But traditionally in sacred geometry, the curved symbols are considered feminine, and the straight lines or more sharp symbols are considered masculine energy. So this symbol is a perfect combination of both, I would say.
And now I want to get to the oh, because this is one of my favorite, because we see this here, and medicine uses this one. I
Mhm.
didn't copy what it was called, but this is the one that we see like for forever. It's been used when you go to like a hospital or any sort of medicine. It is this symbol, and if you're listening, it's two snakes tied into like a stake with wings, but you see it outside of hospitals and medicine. But what does this one mean?
Well, this one is often confused with the staff of Asclepius, which is more considered the medicine symbol, which is only one serpent around a staff.
Oh, okay. So I was wrong. Okay, so it's not this.
No, that's okay, because it's
Uh-huh.
often used. It's very similar symbols, but this one is the caduceus, and it's the two double serpent around the staff, and it's considered the symbol of God Hermes, or later also Archangel Gabriel. And it just shows the duality of life, and some say also the dual spiral of our DNA, or of the DNA, and that it's a key to enlightenment. For me, this symbol has always been, when a synchronicity occurs with this symbol, it usually is something about the consciousness becoming wider or broader. It's about enlightenment, and the fact that we can be enlightened anytime, because it's just about the realization that we are beyond this world, that we are not bound to this world. And that's why the wings, that we can fly, that it's like a liberation symbol, but we are connected or grounded in the material existence through these two serpents, which have always represented this duality. You also have the dual principle of the serpent symbolism. Sometimes it's viewed as the bad or the evil spirit, and sometimes it's the good spirit that actually helps you achieve enlightenment. So it's this duality of this world and the liberation from it. But it's
And,
very confused with the Asclepius, so it's totally understandable.
this is the one. This is that when you see the drawings of Hermes, this is the one that he has, right?
Yes.
And then you said he's later, because and then if anybody that is not familiar, Hermes, who was the Greek, who was the Egyptian god Thoth, is also known for knowledge and spreading wisdom, right?
Hmm.
And then you said later was depicted as what, the Archangel Gabriel, you said?
Yes. Yes, it's very much connected to him.
Yeah, so this is another very important one that we see all the time, and I mean, it looks cool, but you're like, what does this mean? But this symbol might be 20,000 years old, you know. We don't know. We know it's one of the oldest, and we still use it today to represent things.
Yeah, and it's also
Okay.
connected. Sorry, it's connected to the tree of life and the world tree, because in the world tree and tree of life symbolism, you always have the bird and the snake. So it's and the staff represents kind of like the central trunk of the tree. So it's a very powerful symbol.
So I want to make sure, because there's so many, but I don't want to go through all of them because people can get your book to see them all. But some of the ones that are very important that we see, and they're on T-shirts. And again, this is one of them that if you watch anything that Terrence Howard is doing, that he's always talking about the flower of life. And I mean, what is this? What do you,
Well,
so this is supposed to be the most powerful, right? Because this flower of life is actually on ancient, even in China, in ancient Chinese temples, they have this imprinted there. Some of the oldest temples you could find, they have this symbol there. And when people claim, again, you can Google UAP, UFO, things that are going on. They claim they see this on the side of these crafts, and people have images of this. So this is a very powerful symbol. It's called the flower of life. And so
Mhm.
what is your take on this?
It's the blueprint of creation, in my opinion. You can see, if you meditate on the flower of life, you will see all the geometries, just everything starts to click. I recommend, you can see all the Norse runes there, by the way. You can see all kinds of magical shapes and symbols. But what is so powerful about it is that it's again this unity of the circles in their central points, and it creates a flower pattern. But it's like a web of creation that hides all the geometries and symbols. It's what this reality is made of. It's the blueprint of our reality. And to me, if I go to my own experience again, to me, it's the most powerful portal between worlds. If you meditate with this symbol, it will just, if you do it continuously, not just once or twice, but if you really focus on this symbol, meditate with it, your consciousness just naturally expands. It's quite amazing, actually. I have it everywhere at my home, because it's the most powerful gateway and portal to the parallel realities and dimensions in my experience.
So let's talk about that more. So you said, because you said you see all the runes here too.
Mhm.
Just I'm personally not that familiar with runes. I know they're very old, and they're part of the culture there, and the part of, I guess, that part of Europe is goes back,
Yes.
hundreds and hundreds of years. And but describe the power of runes, and then how they relate to this and how they're in here. But describe runes for people that don't know.
The runes are patterns of creation. Like you said, they are really ancient, even though they've been popularized as the Norse runes, but they are much more ancient, because when you then research the cultures of Central and Eastern Europe, you start to see them everywhere in the ancient Bronze Age, um, the clay, the, what do you call it? The
Like the
pottery.
stone. Yeah.
It was everywhere, and also in the cave arts. So then if you go into the deep study of the Norse runes, you realize that they are much more ancient. And in Norse mythology, which preserved all this ancient knowledge really well, because it was written in Iceland, that was very, it kept like the pagan and the old traditions for a very long time, because Christianity came much later than in Europe, in the rest of Europe. And in Norse mythology, we find that God Odin, he um, he went on this kind of shamanic journey, and he saw all the power of the runes, and he brought the power of the runes to the fellow gods and to the earthlings, or to us humans. And it has always been perceived as really powerful codes of creation. And so the runes, when you learn them, for me, that's the most powerful language of nature, because you start to see, when you go on walks in the countryside, when you know the runes, you start to see them. And when you make a conscious connection, for example, I do these kind of runic walks, that I make a decision, okay, now I need a answer to this question. And then the runes just start popping up in nature around me. And then I make the like conclusions, because I know their symbols. But if you meditate on the flower of life, and I have it in my book, you see all the Norse runes there. And what is fascinating to me is that in Norse mythology, God Odin perceives them in a well of knowledge, well of Mim, who is like the ancestral giant, or our ancestral memory symbolically. He perceives it in a well. And if you look at the flower of life, it really resembles a well full of shapes, because it's a circle full of shapes. So I think it's all just archetypal symbolic knowledge of patterns of creation, codes of creation, what this world is made of.
Yeah, and I like that you said in the ruins you could see them in nature, because that's how they were first probably uncovered. Someone noticed these, and then it's worth noting that that I forgot, I don't know what the religion is actually called, but that old belief and practice of runes, it wasn't until when Christianity became started taking over, and they went and actually sought out and killed the people that practiced this, and tried to end out the practice, and this is kind of held on
Yes.
in the last 80 to 90 years is kind of flourishing again. But yeah, very
Yeah.
very 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 interesting stuff here. So you're saying when you meditate on this, I mean, keep an image of this in your mind. A lot of people don't know how to meditate, but when you're doing this, and this is helping you access, when you talk about how you're going into other dimensions, or you're experiencing parallel universes, I think that you're explaining how what we would call this is transcending, and your mind is going into a higher level of consciousness. And people say they experience entities there. People have different experience of reality there, but it's completely different. So, is that what you're doing with this? Is when you're saying you're able to access other dimensions, is this because you're meditating on this and it's taking your mind somewhere? Explain that more, because that's one of the most interesting things, but it's hard for people to kind of grasp what you're talking about when you
I
say
understand.
dimensions, parallel
Yeah.
universes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. It's a complicated topic, but
Mhm.
well, it started for me with the symbols. Meditating with the symbols can be very simple. You can just gaze at them. You don't have to like have such a strong visualization, like to imagine them. It's of course better to bring it to your third eye. But if you are not, uh, uh, if you don't practice that, it's enough if you just look at the symbol and just let your mind be free of all the thoughts, like these, daily thoughts and worries. Just liberate your mind and just gaze at the symbol, and it's the best. Like, of course it's good to empty the mind, but I find that with meditation it's important to have questions, because if you don't have questions, then you don't, like, it's kind of just you are in this beautiful stillness, which is wonderful, but I think most people expect some answers, or they expect some knowledge, or some realizations. So it's good to have questions. If you have deep spiritual questions and you meditate with the symbols, it will get you there. It will get you to the answers. But for me, when I speak about the gateway, the symbols, it starts with that. But then, like, with time, I learned that different symbols can take me to different dimensions. Um, but again, like, the symbols and geometries for me are the second dimension. We are all shapes and geometries in the second dimension. And the second dimension, if you think about it, is really crucial, because we are always in it. Like, we are together in the second dimension. Even when we look at our phones or on the screens, we perceive it as 3D, right? Maybe movies or images, but we are really in the second dimension, and these symbols and everything is second dimension. So for us, the second dimension is like a gateway into our source, the first dimension, the source of the absolute, the source of divine. So I that's why for me it's so important, and it makes so much sense that the symbols will get us there, because when we transition to different dimensions, we always go through the source. Ideally, if we don't go through the source of ourselves, then we can get trapped in the astral, or in the in between, which is maybe a bit confusing and has different vibrations, different levels that can be quite scary. So the symbols really take us to the within, through which we can then go into any dimension that we wish.
So how would you say people can break the loop and get out and start making sure that they can free themselves?
Well, once we already think about the spiritual things, then it's very much about the belief system. Because from my experience, like, what you believe in, you will go to. So, like, if you believe in the fact that you have to repeat something, or that you have to repent, or that you have to go into a new life to make something better, then you will do so. But if you can maybe approach it more creatively and think, okay, if I did something bad in this lifetime, I can approach my karma, because the action and reaction is a principle that works, right? Like, there's no way around it. But if you can approach it creatively, and for example, do good deeds instead of like the eye for an eye, like you did
Yeah.
something, the same will happen to you. If you approach it like, okay, I did this bad, now I will do it in a good way, or I will do like 10 good deeds for one bad deed, let's say, or how you set it up for your own consciousness, your own soul, then that really frees the mind. And also the belief system of really like trying to figure out where you're from on the soul level, because I think many of us have a problem that we don't know where we came from and where we're heading. We're here in the incarnation with the soul amnesia. We don't really know why we came here and where we are headed. So to discover where we came from and where we are heading is, to me, that's the key. And to discover your soul's homes, because there are many parallel worlds in the afterlife also, and to find out where you are from, that really helps to overcome the afterlife matrix and the manipulations of the matrix guardians, because then you know exactly where you're going and you don't let any entity or any outer influence manipulate you.
Wow. Well, you know what? That's a lot of wisdom that you shared there, and I hope people take this and internalize. And there's a lot to learn from you, Iva. So, I feel like that's a good place to end it. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your knowledge. Everyone that's interested in any of Iva's books, please go. Where should we send them to learn more about you and get your books?
My website, ivakenaz.com, or my Amazon. I have all my books on Amazon and other places. So, or my
I'm
YouTube channel.
I'm calling you Iva this whole time. Eva, come on.
So used to it. I'm so used to it. It's Iva, Eva, whatever. But in Czech, it's
Okay.
Eva.
Okay, Eva. Well, thank you so much. I'm gonna put the link to all your books. And again, I really loved your Sacred Geometry and Magical Symbols book. And there's so many more out there too that everyone can enjoy and learn something from. And there's I see you're selling thousands of them. So keep up the good work. And thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you so much.